Hello and welcome to FinextraTV's Thought Leadership Series. I'm Hannah Wallace, and kindly joining me now on the call is Michael Spitz, CEO of Commerzbank's Research and Development Unit. Hello, Michael. Thank you very much for speaking with us today.
Hello, Hannah. Thank you for having me on the show.
No problem at all. It's great to talk to you, even though we can't be face to face. And we're going to be covering a bit about your role at Commerzbank. We're going to be talking a bit about technological innovation in financial services and also how this is impacting the world of business. So let's jump straight in, shall we? So first of all, then I'd like to get your response on what can be seen as popular opinion that says technological innovation in other industries far outstrips those in the financial service sector. So what's your response to that? But also, do you think that banks can truly develop as digital technology companies?
Well, that's a good question, Hannah. But okay, I have, of course, to kind of say that's not right, because banks have always been very digital. If you just think about the way that we've been dealing with from traditional banking to online banking, I mean, most of the transaction has already been in a digital format. Just look at the capital markets transaction. They've always been very, very much reliant on computers. We were the largest purchasers of computers in the 70s, in the 80s, and we processed quite a lot of data. I mean, one of the things we always have to keep in mind, kind of comparing to one industry or the other, comparing to some of the Googles and the Amazons and so on that are natively born in the digital age, we still are looking after client data. So we have to comply with GDPR, we have to comply with other people's money, look after them. So I think there's a very high burden and threshold for us to comply and make sure that we just don't experiment with the technology, but it's got to be rock solid and safe. So I think historically, we've always been leading some of the innovation and we've always been very digital. Now is the question, how do we adopt to these new emerging technologies, and are they useful for financial services, and do they bring value added to the clients?
All right, interesting. And could you shed a bit more light on your role at Commerzbank, but also how you're reacting to clients wanting to learn more and understand about how the market is opening up to these new players and providers?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what is great in my role, and I always say I have the best role in financial services overall. We've been doing this now since 2014. I have this role since the end of 2016, starting 17, where really we thought, if you want to become a digital technology company, you need to adopt something similar to what the automotive industry, the electronic industry have, and you need an R&D division. So we created or recreated what is research and development for financial services. So we have three different aspects. One aspect is what we refer to as community building. So doing things like this today, being on your show, but every first Tuesday of the month, and we have that later on today, on the first Tuesday of the month in Germany, we basically have events which is called Between the Towers, where we invite people from the financial services, from technology, but also academia, bringing them together. We collaborate with different academia, like the technical universities, HPI in Potsdam, RWTH, TU Darmstadt, KIT, and TU Munich. So really, whereas predominantly banks have been talking to legal universities and to business universities, we really focus on the cooperation with technical universities. But then also, we do organize hackathons. We go around hackathons. So I think that's kind of very important. The second part, we are the early stage investor. So we do invest in startups, we do invest in fintechs. Ticket size is typically 250,000 to 2 million. We also have a second fund, which is Commerzventure, which is 2 million to 20 million, where we are one of the leading investors backed by a bank. Our only limited partner is Commerzbank. So we've done now more than 40 investments in startups, which is great because we also, within our portfolio, which is going from payment, from prop tech, from SDG, new investments into sustainability investments, but also payment areas. We integrated more than 74% now into Commerzbank or to our clients, which just shows you how this collaborative approach actually works. And lastly, we have what we call prototyping. Prototyping is identifying how we bring emerging technologies, and I'll get to that maybe a bit later if we have a possibility, in order to work with them and how we can provide new answers to existing problems.
But of course, innovation needs to be measurable and tangible. But how do you measure the success And how do you know when an initiative pilot is going to be a failure or a success?
I think the main incubator fits in nicely within the strategy, within the digital strategy of Commerzbank Group, and I think that's predominantly similar to some other financial services industry. So apart from the main incubator, where we're really trying to go cutting edge on some of the technologies, which we refer to, so we go along, which is called technology readiness levels, from 1 being we don't even know if that works, but let's have a look at it, to number 9. This is really going into production. So everything that's technology readiness level 1 to 3, as in early stage, we only look how can this technology actually have an impact on society. So here we're looking at biotech, bioinformatics, we're looking at space technology, in neuroscience.
Wow.
Like, how is that going to change the way society? Because ultimately, financial services and banking is part of society. So we are trying to help clients. We're trying to make sure that in a new environment, this actually works. Then we need code to technology readiness level 4 to 6. I need to apply to banking. So I need to come up with how does that technology change, or can I resolve a problem that's been there before, but in a new format. So here we're doing networks like 5G, edge computing, network slicing, additive printing. We're doing quantum computer. That's probably at the moment my largest team. So we're looking really at beefing up that side, how we can use quantum computer and quantum physics in order to kind of give answers. And we've just handed over beginning of this year, or March, basically the areas of machine learning. Blockchain is no longer with us in the main incubator because we handed this over to the Tech Foundation, because we already since, in the case of blockchain, we now had it for 4 years in my shop, and then we transferred it over last year when we went into production, November last year. So we have, as Commerzbank, already applications that run on blockchain, but that actually save you money, that are better in the middle and back office. And that's why it's no longer a research project. It becomes something in operation, and that's where we do the handover. And of course, we support the smooth execution there. At the same time, we do a lot of R&D, we do one quarter of R&D out for the clients of the bank. So sometimes we're not commissioned by Commerzbank, but we are commissioned by someone like Continental, by Siemens, and these clients of the bank, where we then co-creating things, and we get a totally different insight. Instead of just talking to a treasurer, we all of a sudden talk to someone who's in the, let's say, production side, and that's just really, really exciting and rewarding.
All right, well, that leads me into my final question then. For those banks embracing change, and it certainly sounds like Commerzbank is, how are they steering innovation, and what impact is this having on the world of business, as it were?
I think, Hannah, over the last 20 years, since I've now been in the banking business and in the innovation business, I've never seen so much willingness to collaborate, to really co-create together with other banks, either in consortium or cross-industry. So the possibility, is really there, because it is difficult times for most of financial institutions. So they need to really turn around every single buck that they have, and maybe it is better to co-create something and really join forces and seeing whether creating standards or ultimately applying certain technology into a larger group, which is better than the concept of the winner takes it all. So we've seen a lot of stuff where really corporates and banks work together. And my piece of advice is ultimately don't just look into a pure financial industry consortium, but really involve and integrate your clients with it, and you bring great results.
Wonderful. Some good advice there as well. Michael, I could keep you on the call for a lot longer, but we'll leave it there. Thank you so much. It's been really interesting.
It was a real pleasure on my side, Hannah. Thank you very much, and stay safe.